Let's be honest, every construction project is a high-stakes puzzle. You've got countless moving parts, a clock that's always ticking, and a budget that feels like it's shrinking. So the real question is, how do you actually master the build and not just, survive it? We're about to break down the frameworks that really separate success from chaos.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the challenge. We're not just putting up buildings, we're trying to manage a kind of controlled chaos. You've got so many teams, crazy tight deadlines, and even tighter budgets. Every single decision creates a ripple effect. The stakes really couldn't be any higher. So, here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about the fundamental balancing act. Then we're going to unpack the essential frameworks for planning, budgeting, and of course, communication. And finally, we'll see how tying all these tools together is the real secret to turning that chaos into complete control.
Okay, everything starts right here, with this tension that lives at the very heart of every single project. The best way to think about it is like a constant balancing act between three really powerful, competing forces.
Every single choice you make on a job site, everything from the materials you order to how many people are working, is a trade-off between these three. Want it done faster? It's probably going to cost you more, or maybe quality takes a hit. Want top-tier quality? Well, that could stretch your schedule or just blow up the budget. This is exactly why we need solid, structured methods to guide these decisions.
So how do you even begin to get your arms around all that complexity? Well, you start with a blueprint. But I'm not talking about the building's blueprint. I'm talking about a blueprint for the work itself. And this incredible tool is called the Work Breakdown Structure, or WBS for short.
The WBS is your first weapon against confusion. Its whole purpose is to take a massive, overwhelming project and chop it up into smaller, much more manageable pieces. So instead of trying to wrap your head around build a hospital, you start thinking about the foundation, then the structural steel, then the electrical systems, all the way down to these little individual work packages.
Now, here's the golden rule of the WBS, the 100% rule. It's super simple, but it's incredibly powerful. It just means that all those little work packages have to add up to exactly 100% of the project's scope, not 99% and definitely not 101%. This makes sure nothing gets forgotten, and just as important, it stops that dreaded scope creep from sneaking into your project.
And you can see that hierarchy in action right here in this diagram. See how at the very top you've got the entire portfolio? That then gets broken down into programs, which then break down into individual projects. It's this clean, top-down structure that starts to bring some serious order to the chaos.
Okay, so the WBS tells us what we need to build. That's a huge step, but it's only one piece of the puzzle, right? Now we need the power tools to manage when it all gets done and for how much. And that's where two other key acronyms come into play, CPM and EVM.
Think of these as two different dashboards for your project. The critical path method, or CPM, is all about time. It's focused on answering one question: will we be on time? On the other hand, earned value management, or EVM, is a bit more sophisticated. It combines cost and schedule to answer a bigger question. Are we actually getting the value we planned for the money and time we've spent so far?
Let's talk about CPM first. What it does is it maps out every single task in your project and how they depend on each other. And in doing that, it finds the critical path, which is the longest chain of tasks. Now, here's why that's so important. If any single task on that path gets delayed by even one day, the entire project gets delayed by a day. It literally shows you exactly where your focus needs to be to stay on schedule.
Now let's dive into EVM. It's built on three main numbers. First up is planned value, or PV. This is basically your project's baseline, your plan. So let's say your plan shows you're supposed to have completed $10,000 worth of work by Friday. Your planned value for Friday is 10 grand. It's the yardstick you'll measure everything else against. Next, and this is the really crucial one, is earned value, or EV. This measures the value of the work you have actually finished. So it's Friday, your plan said you'd have $10,000 of work done, but maybe you only got through $8,000 worth. Well, your earned value is $8,000. Right away, you know you're behind schedule, and it doesn't even matter how much money you've spent yet.
And that brings us to the final piece, actual cost, or AC. This one's easy. It's just what you've actually spent, the money that's gone out the door. So let's say you spent $9,000 to get that $8,000 worth of work done. Now you see the whole picture. Your earned value of $8K is less than your actual cost of $9K. You are officially over budget and behind schedule.
That is the beautiful and sometimes brutal power of EVM. Okay, so let's imagine you have the perfect plan, a crystal clear critical path, and you're tracking your value like a hawk. Awesome. But what happens when the team on the ground hits a problem? Even the world's best plans can get totally derailed by a simple lack of information.
Oh man, this is a moment that anyone who's ever stepped on a construction site knows all too well. The crew is there, they're ready to go, but wait a minute, the drawing's confusing, a spec is missing, or what they see on site just doesn't match the plan. Everything grinds to a halt. So what's the official way to get an answer and get things moving again?
That's where the request for information, or RFI, is supposed to save the day. It's the formal written process for asking a question and getting an official clarification. It's designed to solve these problems, fill in those info gaps, and get the project back on track, all while creating a legal paper trail, which is super important.
But here's the big, ugly secret. The RFI process itself is often completely broken. Responses can take weeks. Sometimes the answers you get back are just as confusing as the original plans. And this is shocking. Research shows that a staggering 22% of RFIs just never get a response at all. And every single one of those failures costs serious time and money.
And that brings us to what might be the most important point of all this. The WBS, CPM, EVM, RFIs, these are all fantastic tools. But the real secret to getting control of your project isn't just using these tools. It's about how you bring them all together.
The real goal here is to stop thinking about these things as separate jobs. Real, true project control only happens with integration. It's about creating a single source of truth where your scope, your timeline, your budget, and your communications are all talking to each other in real time. That's how you go from just reacting to fires to actually being in front of them.
You know, for way too long, the industry has tried to manage this with a messy patchwork of disconnected tools. You've got the schedule in one spreadsheet over here, the budget in a completely different one over there, and critical communications about RFIs are buried in some chaotic email chain or a massive WhatsApp group. It is literally impossible to get a clear, live picture of your project's health that way.
And this is exactly where modern platforms completely change the game. Instead of trying to tape together spreadsheets and navigate that WhatsApp chaos, a platform like Lementai is built from the ground up to solve this exact problem. It gives you that single source of truth by digitizing your entire workflow. You can bring your plans, your progress tracking, and your communications all into one place. It's how you actually turn that chaos into control. And you can even get started for free.
Thanks so much for tuning in. This explainer was brought to you by